everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Outside Insider podcast here on Philly Sports Network with myself, Liam Jenkins. You know the score by now. All things Eagles related from the last 7 days wrapped up inside a refillable cup, so you can just... That was meant to slurp. You sip the content, alright? That's the... I've ruined the intro. I've tried my best. If you're new around here and you are not yet subscribed, we are on the following platforms. We are on iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, the Google Podbox thing. There's an orange one. We're basically everywhere. Just search the Outside Insider. And I wanted to start this show off with a massive thank you. For those of you who don't know, we did 2 live streams on the YouTube channel yesterday. We had a bunch of articles out pre and post game. I didn't realise until I woke up this afternoon, focus on the afternoon bit, I'm a tired LJ right now. I did 17 hours work yesterday. Yeah, that was emotional. 17 hours. The game didn't start till 1:20 in the morning my time. By the time I'd finished editing and the streams and all the rest of it, I got home at around 9 a.m. So, very kind of wavy day for me. But we're back and it's what you guys deserve. And the reason I pull those days and I try and give you guys as much content as you can physically consume, I'm just pumping it down your throat. I'm like Jordan Howard. I'm just slamming it over and over again. It's because you guys love it, and it's the best feeling in the world to know that you are the most supportive fan base, that you always want more content, and I'm extremely lucky to be in this position. So if you want to join our community, it would be amazing if you could. We want to spam you with as much Eagles content, much quality Eagles content as we can. But yeah, last night was a thrill ride. We had over like 150 of you at 6 a.m. UK time, it's like 1 a.m. American time, all elated about the Eagles win. And who can blame anyone? What a win! The game had everything. It had cornerbacks being beaten. It had pass rush doing things. It had Carson Wentz, Aaron Rodgers, balls being thrown, and Rudy! I would do the Sandejo thing, but he doesn't deserve it. He was a naughty boy, alright? I'm not happy. I mean, I think Sandejo's game, that physical style of it is being phased out of the league very slowly but surely. And there is a cult of people that love going on Twitter and seeing NFL hardest hits from 1985, and they'll watch that over and over, and that's fine, like, that's great. But you'd expect some bad mojo, I guess, bringing Sunday, I'm not doing it, onto the team, given the Minnesota thing. And maybe that's what it is. But, I mean, on a serious note, before we get into any analysis, a very, I think, warm appreciation for Avonte Maddox and a sentiment from everyone at PSN, whether it's readers, listeners, writers, podcasters, whoever, to Avonte and his family at what's going to be a scary time. Like, it's lovely that he can move all extremities. We've been told he was joking around with teammates this morning. He's got a concussion and a neck injury. He should be okay and make a full recovery, and that is the best news. Like, that was a super scary moment that put a lot of it back into perspective, and I think put a new focus on why plays like Sandejo's are being slowly eradicated from the game. So just before we get anything super funny and analysis based, just a massive sigh of relief and thoughts going out to Avonte's family. I couldn't even imagine being, related or knowing him in that situation. The fear you must be going through. Harsh reality of football set in there. So, they're definitely not overpaid. We're not going through that argument. Just a very tough moment, I think, for sure. But the way the Eagles rebounded from that is something I want to get to a bit later on, because I think it's one of those instances that really define this team's character. But before we get to that, we've got a new hero, ladies and gentlemen. A hat-trick hero that also begins with H. So Howard hat-trick hero, Jordan Howard. Finally! I've been pounding the table for about a month now. So much so that I've probably hurt my fist in the process. Maybe even broken my wrist. Howard exploded, on Thursday night against the Packers. Miles Sanders wasn't a liability. He looked good. And the only reason this all worked is because Doug Peterson finally realised how to best use the ingredients he's got. And this is where the first awful LG analogy comes in. If you are new to this podcast, a lot of you don't like the fact that I go on these analogies, but these are where the real OGs lie. Alright, this is where the meat of this podcast is. I'm a bad cook. For those of you who've been around a while, you've all heard the stories of how things go wrong. Where do we even begin with that? I mean, the last girl I was seeing she was like, I'm going to go have a shower. I was like, alright, I'll go cook you some noodles. I couldn't work the gas oven. I was trying to light the gas. The gas was coming through. I forgot to turn the oven on. So basically, I was just giving myself carbon monoxide poisoning for fun. But the most prominent, and the one I'm bringing to you today, comes from when LJ was just a child. He had hair just like this. Alright, he was all emo. And he walked into a school classroom and he wanted to cook. Okay, but they were teaching cooking. Everyone in the class was, I think they were cooking spaghetti bolognese. Alright, my favourite. It's not my favourite dish. I can't stand it. It's alright. It's a bang average dish and it's 5 out of 10. And I was running late. I was 15 minutes late. So I come into class. Everyone is learning a demonstration of how to chop up an onion. And I was like, well, if I put all my stuff into a pot and smack the oven up to 150, or that pot, by the time that it cooks, and I come away from that demo, I'd have caught up to everyone else. So I was like, banging, right? Whack it all in. The bolognese, we had the noodle. I just shoved it all into a pot. It was horrifying. It was like a mess. It was off the scene of The Walking Dead. It was terrifying, right? I go and learn this demo from Mr. Shergold. I remember his name. He had curly hair. And out of nowhere, this teaching assistant storms out of the room like a horse in a Kentucky Derby with a towel. And I was like, where's she going? And she comes back in and storms over towards my desk, like my oven, my area, my kitchen area, and there is smoke bellowing out of it. It is horrifying, okay? She then pours it into a sink, and to this day I don't know what is in the sink, but the sink caught fire. A flame erupted from the sink like something out of the Lord of the Rings. It was one of the scariest moments of my life, because I don't know what I put in there. And basically, I had all the ingredients for spaghetti bolognese. I didn't know how to use them. I put them in a pot, I flipped the oven on, and basically almost burnt my classroom to the ground. And you can make the argument that's sort of what Doug Peterson does for the first few weeks of every season, until things get settled and he realises, Jordan Howard, you're the bolognese, you're the meat here, you should be going on that pot over there. So you still don't know how to cook. The spaghetti, Miles Sanders, you're not a north-south runner. You're outside. You go outside the bolognese, eh? See where it's going now? You see where we're rolling? You go outside the bolognese. And the offensive line, well, you're the plate it goes on. Without the plate, it's just a mess on the floor. So we need a nice, firm plate, alright, to block the bolognese from spilling on to my lovely white, skinny jeans. Look at that, right? And that's what we saw, a combination of everything. Absolutely everything. Run blocking, the wham concepts, we're going to get to wham a little bit later, because that is very, very relevant for a particular debate. But there was wham, there were trap concepts, we saw outside zone, we saw runs under centre, we saw a little bit of play action just sprinkled in there, and we saw screens. Screen passes returned. There were none last week. They're back now. That's great. It was so, I think, vindicating after weeks of thinking that you know what the solution is. That it seemed too obvious, like surely not everyone can be seeing this. Like there has to be something more as to why Jordan Howard is sat on the sideline playing Mario Kart Tour as opposed to running up the gut and knocking down defenders like a human bowling ball. A tumbling tower of terror, I called him on Twitter at 6 a.m. Forgive me for that. But it wasn't. It was as simple as that. It was just a case of knowing personnel and knowing how to use 12 personnel. And I think the offensive line probably got scolded a little bit from the week before, where, there was that play where they were all over there and Carson Wentz was 10 yards away just playing Sudoku, and the offensive linemen weren't really bothered about it. I think that probably played a role. They may have just been given a kick up the arse a little bit and told to pick things up. But what a performance all round. Like, the rushing game, I think a lot of people forget, it's a lot more than just running backs. It's so focused on the tight end blocking, the offensive line blocking, the concept, the patience and the vision. Like, there's so much that goes into a successful run play, especially a slow developing one. And the Eagles just got the right balance. I mean, for crying out loud, they rushed more than they passed, and they were down after the first quarter. They were down. There were times where they held the Packers to 2 field goals. That the red zone defense was incredible. We'll get to that a bit later as well. But my God, the persistence to run the ball. Jordan Howard, 5.8 yards per carry on 15 rushes. This no longer a small sample size, ladies and gentlemen, kiddos at home. This was a bruising performance by a back that just fell forward like a tumbling tower of terror. He was just thumping them over and over again, wearing them down. And you've got Dallas Goedert on WAN concepts, just making I can't wait for a film room on that. And do you know what the best part about this as well? Is that now we've got a long break, okay? We've got 10 days, 10 whole days to break down film, to look at the anatomy of this game and work out how the Eagles were able to upset Green Bay. And I think a lot of it stems at the run game. And we couldn't have this discussion without a certain song. If you were in the post-game streams last night, you would have realised that the Clayton Dawson song made a reappearance, much to the dismay and the approval of some others. And I got a tweet this morning from one of our listeners, John Eads, who said, Liam, can you please, for the love of God, replace the Clayton Dawson song with Jordan Howard? And I was like, Jordan Howard? I mean, it works, but I think there's a better way to do this. Because Jordan Howard scored a hat-trick, and as many of you will know, being a Charlton Athletic fan, Lyle Taylor is our striker, hat-trick is a soccer term. I thought, why not marry up a football chant like Clayton Dawson with Conor Gallagher, that was a Charlton thing, to Lyle Taylor and have this throughout the year. And then it dawned on me that I can. So here is the first rough edit live. I've never performed this before. I'm getting a little bit flustered now. Of what will now be the Jordan Howard touchdown song. And the beauty of it is, you can adapt this to any Eagles running back. Right? Bear that in mind. But all I'm saying is, this could be the biggest... I mean, this could go straight to number 1 in the charts. Da 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 Jordan Howard! Alright, I'm going to shake up now the next one, ready? Miles Sanders! Lyle Taylor! I had to for Charlton, but it has to be done. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. All the things you do to me and everything you said. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. We slip and slide as we fall in love, and I just can't seem to get enough. No. Jordan Howard. And there you go. That might just go to number 1. I'm just saying it out there. It might just go to number 1. Alright? But hey, if that wasn't bad enough, it's only going to get worse from here on out. But I think, naturally then, if you're on YouTube, this video is coming to an end now. This was the little 10-minute opening, alright? You've got a little song. If you want the rest of the podcast, it's coming out a little bit later, alright? It takes about 6 hours to render. If you're not and you're listening to the podcast going, what the hell is he on about? Don't you worry. This next bit is for you. Today, we now move on to... I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because you can view the defense with 2 lenses. Is my refillable cup half empty or half full? Right now, it's about 3/4 full, alright? And there's flat Pepsi in there. It's flat. It's gone off and it's warm. Unlike the Eagles defense, which I think is cold. Did you know, on one hand, the Eagles have allowed a 100-yard receiver in every game, and Devontae Adams had over 100 yards in the first half. That was good, wasn't it? And then you've got against the run, where the Eagles through 4 weeks now have allowed a total of 97 yards. 97. It got to a point, okay, where Aaron Jones carried it 13 times. Like, halfway through the game, you're thinking, stop playing the one. You want him to run more, right? Like, and if you're so good against the run, they're going to do it less and they're going to pass, which is Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Like, no. Stop loading the box, invite them to run more, and cut them out, because they were too dominant against the run. It was amazing to see. On the back end, though, there are problems. But I don't want to start this podcast, or midway through the podcast, with complaints and we should get Ramsey and Chris Harris Jr. and like every other podcast will do. I guarantee it. If you come into this podcast, I reckon, on a traditional Eagles fans listener scope, is like 3 or 4. You go to the main dogs first. You do your BGN radio with Mike and Ben. They've definitely mentioned Jalen Ramsey by now. 100%. You're going to go to Nah, maybe we're second. Maybe, I don't know. But we'll get to Jalen later. What I would love to talk about is red zone defense. Because off the top of my head, without going to the charting and all of that stuff and going back through the film again, because I haven't had time to today, alright? Like I said, I'm a busy, tired boy right now. Okay, I'm doing my best. But the Eagles had 4 drives go inside the red zone. They forced 2 field goals where they were very lucky. And I mean very lucky. As in, they have just walked in front of a lorry and it has missed them by that much. Lucky. As in, the level of luck that I had on my last week of Apple. So for those of you who know, before I did this full time, I used to work for Apple. There was a day where, in that last month when I told them I was leaving, they put me in every day on 4-hour shifts. And I lived an hour away, so I had to get a train every day. And it cost me more money than I was legit making to get to work. But I did it so I could do this, right? And I got to the train station knowing I couldn't afford a ticket that day. I couldn't afford a ticket. I couldn't afford to get to work, right? And somehow, in the ticket machine, was a ticket that had been left by someone else, paid for, to the city I was going, and home again. And it was like, so that is luck. Like, that is red zone defense luck against the Packers. Because, my God, those 2 field goals, they were very lucky to get away with minimal damage there. Then you've got the interception at the end of the game, where Craig James, ladies and gentlemen, we have found our new Crayvon LeBlanc. I'm sorry, Captain, you're still here, we're still on the ship. But King Craig and Captain Crayvon might just be the most dynamic duo in the National Football League. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there that that's what we're dealing with now. Unbelievable scenes. Craig James, on his first play in the game, breaks up a pass so high up in the air that cedar block hand Nigel Bradham can haul it in without any minor problem. What a play. What a guy. What an effort. That is by Craig James. A fair play to him to come in. That is Crayvon level hustle, and I respect it. No, he's not going to go and replace Jalen Ramsey or somewhat thwart those talks, but you know what? We can at least get behind the sentiment that Craig James did a thing. But that red zone defense, we spoke about it for a while. All of last season, it was definitely a hot conversation, and now, again, it's a hot conversation. It did well. I mean, for crying out loud, Aaron Rodgers had 422 passing yards. 422. Most of them were on the first bloody play. I mean, there was that one play to Devonta Adams in the first half where the Eagles genuinely had a UAV of flags. They had 3 flags for a UAV for Modern Warfare 2 hustlers. Alright, I see you. 3 flags in one play. They had one at the line of scrimmage, a DPI, I'm pretty sure an unnecessary roughness, all on the same play. That is effort. Like, great lack of discipline, boys. Wicked. But then they get inside the red zone. Like, how do you take 400... If I told you, guess the score. 422 passing yards, 77 rushing yards. A total of, let's say, 3 touchdowns. And obviously extra field goals and stuff. How many points do you reckon the Packers put up? Because anyone that says below 30 is telling a big porky. I guarantee you that much. The fact that the Eagles, again, in coverage, it was a liability. They've got one corner that can genuinely hold his own right now. And that is Rasul Douglas. It's a fact. And I think even Sidney Jones, I mean, it's not like we can be angry at Jim Schwartzy, you know? Like, he's doing the best he can with what he's got. Yes, there are certain times you love to see safety help over the top. Just pull Jenkins back, deload the box, force them to run. That helps the Eagles run defense anyway. And then just put the extra safety over the top. Have a helping hand, you know? That needs a lot of work. But as of right now, they played press man coverage. We've been playing for it all week. We've been pounding the table for it. I've been doing a lot of table pounding recently. It's the only pounding I'm doing. I don't know why I said that. I can't get over that. You can tell I'm on like no sleep. It's one of those things where we've begged for it for so long. And they finally played press man. and they get beaten by a very underrated route runner in Devontae Adams. Like, what can you do? You pick your poison. Do you want to play 10 yards off and be ruined underneath, or do you want to go and have a little bit of hustle at the line? We chose option B, and the effects were as shown. 10 receptions, 180 yards. Fair play to him. Although, you know, I think that probably would have been much more had he been in the game during that second half. But in the red zone, to come away where there was that I think it was the second quarter, where they forced 2 field goals and gave up a touchdown. Like that, it was good hustle. It was good play in the red zone, and that was what was missing. So we're going to get onto the secondary a bit soon enough, but before we talk about the corners and the linebackers and Sendejo and the defensive flaws and how everything is still totally worrying, for the lack of a better term, like it does make me anxious before going to bed at night. I go to bed and I close my eyes and I don't think of the love of my life. I don't think of what I have for breakfast the next morning. I think of, linebackers can't follow the flow of traffic. Oh no. I think of, Sunday, it's going to make a big hit. Oh no, he's going to hit his own teammate. I think of, it's a double move and Ronald Darby's in coverage. It's bad. You know, it's really bad. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the 21-minute mark. Now, not 21 specifically, it's around 20 minutes, but it's my favourite part of the show. It might be your favourite part of the show. If not, skip forward a bit. But it's a little segment I like to call Thank You Next. And of course, what we want to do here is read your questions that you submit on Twitter. And this is the part preluding that, where I have to find the questions and go on my Twitter timeline because I'm very much unprepared. So here we are. We have got 6 of them. 6 of your questions in today's video, and this is where we're going to start. Thank you. Next, Chris Jeffries. I know he's been one of my most avid listeners for a while. Do you think there are any other corners besides Ramsey we should go after? I'm sure teams are open to capital for corners, whether they're openly shopped or not. Good question. I like the idea of Adoree Jackson, but he reminds me too much of Ronald Darby. I know Michael Kiss, I think, suggested it earlier today. I think there are a few that, Chris Harris is an interesting one because he was shot before the off-season. So with Denver's season falling apart, would he be open to it? I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but I would verge on the realm of saying, if you're going to trade for a corner at this point, you might as well not waste it. Other than Xavier Howard, if you can eat up that contract, where he's been elite, he's, I think, been one of the very, very few standouts on a porous Miami defense. It has been about as efficient as a flannel in a flood, right? Unless you're going to go out and get Xavier Howard and suck up what is a massive, monumental contract in the hopes that he can then become someone like Jalen Ramsey, you just go and get a Jalen Ramsey. Put it this way, alright? If I've got £50 and I'm taking someone out to dinner, which in itself is a rarity, would you skimp to save money so you can treat yourself after on, or do you enjoy the day? If you love the girl and you want to treat her, you go all out, you buy flowers, you book a nice table, you get a bottle of wine. Probably, I wouldn't know. But that's sort of the aim. You don't skimp and get someone, the one corner I think will come back is Orlando Scandrick, because if Maddox is out for a considerable amount of time, the Eagles don't have a nickel corner. Scandrick, veteran, 13 passes defense last year, off-season with the team, knows the team, knows the system, he's going to come in and Scandrick the field, and that's my prediction for that. So Jalen Ramsey and Scandrick would be the two that I think are going to end up coming in here. Thank you. Next, at Yorkis, I believe this is your first question on the show, so thank you for submitting one. What are some common terminology mix-ups that you've heard from newer NFL fans in the UK? That's a really good question. I don't really know many UK NFL fans, and the ones I do are normally pretty diehard. It's not that there are terminology mix-ups, it's that I think my main pet peeve is that NFL in the UK, every game that's televised, at least on BBC, so not the Sky ones, is treated like you are watching the sport for the first time. So if you watch pre-game coverage on Fox or CBS or wherever, it's, Alshon Jeffrey on PFF ranked 13th against the wind blowing left on a Wednesday night. That's good, that's analysis. In England, this is a ball and you have to throw it forward, and that's called a chain, and they have to get it past the chain, and then they get a new down, and it's first down, and you get 3 downs. Like, it's that level of basics, and I can't stand it. The one thing I always get is hand egg, and I know this is not what you asked at all, Nostriorkis, I'm very sorry, but I don't know enough NFL fans to kind of really give you an in-depth answer, I suppose. But every February when the Super Bowl's on, you see the same Facebook statuses every year. People going, how do people watch this? It's hand egg. Why don't they call it hand egg? Because you got an egg in your hand. Well, why do they call it football? It's an egg in their hand. Like, get in the bin. Like, honestly, just behave. It's unbelievable. That, and they'll go, it's just rugby players and they're weak and they're puffies because they wear helmets and pads. Like, again, bin. Get in it. Add enough of it. Alright, I'm going to get angry in a minute, so I'm going to leave your question there. And hopefully we'll have a bit more of an in-depth one when I meet more UK NFL fans. At Daytona Pappy says, why hasn't Jenkins got a restructure or new deal when Strap's set to return? Why haven't I got a restructure and a new deal for Philly Sports Network? Well, Liam, you're your own boss. Alright, you're your own boss. You've got to sort your own contract, mate. Alright? As for Malcolm Jenkins, good question. I genuinely don't know, because the Eagles have clearly got the money, they've got the capital, they've got everything they could ever want, and they can't seem to get it done. So I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, if I'm honest, mate. I really wish I had an answer. When is Strap set to return? He'll be eligible to come off of injured reserve after week number 8. Wow, I just actually held up 8 fingers. I thought I'd hold up like 7. I'm pretty sure that week they face the Bills. I might be wrong, but I think it's the Bills. Thank you. Next, ASAP Scott. This space for rent. If you want to rent his space in his Twitter bio, alright, give him a message. You can rent that. A whole there's 2 brackets. You can put whatever you want in there. You can rent it. You can rent someone's Twitter name. What a business model. Alright. Scott, so his Twitter name is @ScottBales13. You can rent that. Coca-Cola, like, I could do it. Yeah? I might. I'm just saying. He's got 3k followers. That's a big reach. I like it. How would I address the CB situation? I would Orlando Scandrick, probably bring back Jamalcolm Liggins, because if I can, depending on his current situation and stuff, I think because he knows the team, or someone like Aaron Grimes, because LJ, right, just for the brand. But then you need to go and get a starter at this point. It's bad, because even if your corners get healthy, and in the healthiest situation, your corners are Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills, and that doesn't fill me with confidence at all. It's like going on a road trip saying, hey, we've got 3 flat tyres, but the engine's alright. You still might die on the way, alright? I would much rather go out and just, at this point, if it's not Jalen Ramsey, give me a Chris Harris, give me a Xavier Howard, give me a free agent from somewhere, just something to boost his team. But you need to get that sorted now. Like, there are too many injuries. Is it a bit too soon to be criticising the Eagles medical staff? I do think so. Obviously, a lot of it, I think Thomas made a point last night saying that it's through player pain thresholds as well. Like, doctors can only act based on the info that they've got and vice versa. So, I don't know. I would, for me, Jalen Ramsey, Orlando Scandrick, Jay Liggins, bring them all in. Put him into a blender, see what happens. I think best case, Rasul Douglas CB2, Jalen Ramsey CB1, Scandrick in the nickel, to then be replaced by LeBlanc. But then you're going to have a battle next season of Douglas v Jones again, and I don't think my heart's ready for that. If I'm honest, I've only just recovered from this battle they've had, so for the sake of my own well-being, I really hope that that's not the case. And then, number 1, unlike Alagor and his mishaps fan. Now, I'm assuming that's the man that saved the baby, is that right? I've still not seen the actual video, like I refuse to watch it, because it just looks like BS, to be honest. Like, he looks like a hero, but he's milking his 5 minutes of fame, and I refuse to be a part of it. Alright, I refuse to be facilitating that kind of Nelson Aguilar slander on my timeline. I'm not having it. Do you believe, so at Philaticus, that the cosmic forces of the universe could align in such a way this team could go on a run? I do, because the universe has aligned in stranger ways before. Hey, LJ's been in love before. That's enough cosmic alignment for one lifetime, but why not do it again? If they go on a run now, and if they beat the Jets, I think the run is confirmed. If they lose to the Jets, which is very rapidly becoming a trap game now, I would be a little bit concerned. Just because you've got the Vikes, the Bears, the Bills, and the Cowboys all coming up in like the space of a month. It is tough sledding. It is snowing down, or sledding down a very icy rocky path. I don't know how you go. I've never been sledding, if I'm honest. There's one video on the YouTube channel of me having snowballs thrown at my head answering Eagles trivia. That's about as far as I've ever been. But it could align, yeah. If they beat the Jets, they've got that confidence. I think now you've got into Lambeau Field on a short week. I've just really had my finger hitting that table. Off a loss against Rodgers at home, who's 3-0, to come in short-handed and beat them. Yeah, you've got all the confidence in the world. You can beat anyone on any given day. If you can beat Aaron Rodgers, you can beat anyone. And the Packers are 3-0, having faced the Bears and the Vikings. So if we're going to play a game of if he beats him and I beat him, then I can beat him. The Eagles are basically undefeated for the rest of the season at this point. So I would say 100% they can go on a run. But that is it for Thank You Next, guys. Thank you for submitting your questions. If you want to submit them in the future, the best way to do so is to follow me on Twitter, alright? At Liam Jenkins PSN. Stands for Philly Sports Network, alright? Or Philadelphia SN, which is Philly Sports Network's Twitter account. But that's about it for Thank You Next. We've, as always, got one more topic to get through before we're going to call it a day. And do you know what? I'm not even going to go on about Jalen Ramsey, because I don't think it's worth the hassle at this point. There'll be plenty of content coming up, don't you worry. What I would love to talk about, though, just for 10 minutes, because everyone is so quick to talk about Carson Wentz when things aren't going great. Alright, whether it's Dallas fans, whether it's Eagles fans, whether Eagles media or national media does my nut in at times. I mean, it's really tricky, but I mean, for me, the only thing I said about Carson Wentz this week was that I want to see him lead this team, right? You've got young receivers making drops, struggling right now. They're struggling to get it done. They really are. It's a mental thing. It's a confidence thing. And as a quarterback, $129 million man, the epicenter of that team, I wanted to see him put that on his shoulders, be accountable, and lift those guys up. And it's hard to quantify. Is he going to take them to dinner? Is he going to take them to the arcade? Or are they going to go and shoot some bison? I don't know, but something to lift those guys up. That's all I wanted to see. I don't care about the rest. On the field, I'm not even concerned about him, because I think he is a borderline elite talent this year. But I wanted to see something. And we did. We got it. They spent 20 minutes after each practice on jugs machines. Carson Wentz spent 20 minutes after practice with his receivers. That was all I wanted to see. And he comes into this game, and do you know what? He doesn't post his most flashiest stat line in the world. He's not out there slinging 400 yards like Aaron Rodgers. He's not out there throwing picks on that same level, though. 16 and 27, 160 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Game managed. What more could you want? What more could you want against the Packers defense that has been eating people alive? In 4 games, Carson Wentz has 9 touchdowns and 2 picks and already nearly 1,000 yards. What more does anyone want with a short-handed offense? If this was not the game we look at Carson Wentz and say, this is the rightful quarterback. Forget all of the stupid slander in that article from Philly Voice all those time ago with the writer that put his Twitter on private because he couldn't hack the fact he was being criticised. Forget the teammates requesting more targets. Forget all of the BS around this argument. This was a game where Carson Wentz was smart with the ball, didn't make silly... he made 2 silly decisions, alright? He almost killed Jordan Howard on a screen that shouldn't have been... I don't know what that was. That happened. And then a play later, almost did the same on the other side of the field. But other than those 2, and the first half against Atlanta, let's not forget that atrocity. That was awful. And I mean awful. He's been great. There's been nothing to criticise for Carson Wentz at all on the field. I can't think of one thing. And do you know what? Maybe it's a thing of, I think when there's so much noise, it's easy to look at one thing and blame, right? You can look at, for instance, a relationship with someone and go, oh, it's failing because they do that, and I hate it, and I'm going to leave now. And then you leave, and you're like, well, yeah, but they did that, and they're actually making my bed every day and giving me food and being nice and supporting my dreams and were lovely and funny. Yeah, just think about that. Don't know why they make you bed, though. You probably sleep in the same bed. If you're not, that might be why your relationship's failing. But it's one of those in retrospect. And I think the Eagles fans that have been so critical of Carson Wentz, whenever you get to a 4th quarter with this man, Twitter explodes. Oh, Carson Wentz isn't clutch. Carson Wentz can't do it. He's never won a game. I don't know what you want me to say at this point. There is nothing physically more he can do to convince anyone that he is a top quarterback in this league. I mean, someone tweeted me the other day and said, like, is he on the same level as Patrick Mahomes? I think it's different to say because Mahomes is doing ungodly like things at the moment. But as far as a franchise QB goes and someone that you want around for the next 10 years, and hey, I'm 24 years old, right? If I am covering Carson Wentz on this team until I'm 34 years old, where I'll still have this dodgy haircut, I still won't be in a relationship, I still won't have kids, I'll still be in this lovely office, I'm happy. I will take stability. Like, it's that simple. He's been the one consistent thing about this offense. And somehow he was still being slandered in the opening 3 weeks. Just finally, like, there is a take this more like First Take or whatever it is with buddy Max Kellerman or whatever he's called. Their topic was rather have Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz. Not would you rather have, just rather have. Like, they're asking rather have? As in, should I rather have? Should I not? I don't know. But they're still trying to push it. Ignore it, Eagles fans. You've got a good one. You've got an elite quarterback that is just one on the road on a short week with Alshon Jeffrey, who got bodied by Kevin King. Yeah, little Kevin King out of Washington against 6'4" behemoth Alshon Jeffrey. Bodied. Alshon Jeffrey was not 100% that game. Matt Collins was Matt Collins and running half-ass routes for some reason. Zach Ertz was good. Nelson Aguilar didn't do anything. I don't know what more you want him to do. I really don't. So I want to end this podcast not pounding the table for Jalen Ramsey. Not asking for defensive analysis on cornerbacks and why they need him. Not sat here gonna say how amazing everything is or awful it is on defense. Because we're going to get into all of that over the next 10 days. But what I do want to end it on is saying just how lucky Eagles fans are to have Carson Wentz. And that's a lovely sentiment to end it on. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for lending me your ears on this lovely Friday evening. It has been a pleasure as always to bring you this podcast. If you are not yet subscribed, it would be amazing if you could. If you could leave a rating on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or whatever it's called, that would be phenomenal. That is the best way to support this podcast. As always, follow me on Twitter at Liam Jenkins PSN, and I'll see you